I spoke to the Business Secretary, Kwasi Kwarteng. Now, for reasons that none of us quite understand, it was the business department that was completely in charge of sort of getting all this vaccine. So I talked a bit about him, but about vaccinations, obviously. But I started by asking him whether it was likely that schools would open, as we've just been discussing, on the 8th of March, as suggested by the Prime Minister earlier today.
So we've got to look, as you know, Robert, at the evidence, and we have to work out what the effect of the vaccination is. We've got a very ambitious program of vaccinations. I think it's rolling out well, but we have to wait and see what the actual coronavirus is doing. We've got to make sure that the NHS isn't under too much pressure. And before we can open the schools, we've got to assess that data. So the Prime Minister said that the 8th of March will be the earliest point at which schools will be reopened. But of course, we've got to assess the data next month in the middle of February.
So is it a target?
It's not a target. It's saying that we need to have a date. The 8th of March is the earliest date by which the schools can be opened, because we need to assess real-time data. We don't know where the virus will be. We don't know what the full effect of the rollout of the vaccine will be. But when we do have a clearer picture on that in a couple of weeks in the middle of February, I think we can then make a decision as to whether or not to open schools on the 8th.
And what's your sense? Are we talking about all schools in a sort of big bang or a sort of staggered reopening?
Well, again, I mean, we haven't made a decision specifically about the 8th of March. We're going to look at the data, we're going to look at the evidence, and then on that basis, we will make a decision as to whether schools should be reopened on the 8th.
Now, you're in charge of vaccination supply. 3 days in a row, actually, the number of vaccinations has fallen. Is there a problem with supply at the moment? I
don't think there is. I mean, obviously, day by day, there are fluctuations. But if you look at the big picture, the rollout has been extremely successful here in the United Kingdom. We have, I think, over 7 million vaccinations that have already been made. We're targeting the 4 most vulnerable groups, which comprise, I think, 88% of the COVID deaths. And people around the world are commenting on the fact that the rollout in the UK has been successful. I hope that this continues. Obviously, it's relatively early days, but there's really room for hope and optimism about this.
Now, look, the big ramping up is obviously with the Oxford-AstraZeneca vaccine, but in the early phase, it was all about Pfizer. Pfizer have been retooling their factory in Belgium, which means that their ability to manufacture has been reduced. How anxious are you that we won't be able to get enough of the Pfizer vaccine for the crucial second doses?
I mean, obviously, we're looking at the situation very closely, but we're confident, given the programme of rollouts, given where we are with the Oxford-AstraZeneca vaccine, that we will be able to vaccinate the most vulnerable people. And then on that basis, we will make decisions about things that are crucially vital, such as the opening of schools that you were referring to earlier in the programme.
Sure, but I'm really interested in those particularly older people who've had the Pfizer first dose. Is there a chance that they'll be given the Oxford vaccine as a second dose?
I think, as I say, it's an evolving picture. I don't think there have been pressures in supply, but I don't think that this has impeded the rollout, the full rollout of the vaccinations. And we're confident that we will be able to vaccinate the most vulnerable people, as I've said, in a very short time.
Now, the EU has been talking about wanting to get the AstraZeneca vaccine from our shores into the EU because they've got terrible problems with supply in Europe. Have they been in touch with you? Do you think there is any chance that AstraZeneca will be exporting British-made vaccine to the continent?
I think the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine has been a hugely successful project. It was devised here in the UK, and I don't think that there's any real pressure on us to start thinking about exporting the vaccine. I mean, that's obviously something for AstraZeneca, but our number one priority, my number one priority as a government minister, is to make sure that our most vulnerable cohorts are vaccinated in a very timely and efficient way. And I think we're 100% focused on that.
And what it sounds to me is though you don't feel minded to help the EU in this respect.
No, of course, we're always very cooperative, but as you'll appreciate, as a British government minister, my 100% focus is on making sure that our most vulnerable people, I mean, the 4 cohorts which comprise 88% of the deaths so far, that they are protected, and that's 100% of our focus.
Now, you've said very explicitly you're not in the business of reducing workers' rights, so why are you having a review at all?
What I've said a number of occasions is that the whole point of trying to leave, or having successfully left the EU, is we want high wages, we want a high growth economy, and we want high skills. And nobody in BEIS and nobody in government is interested in whittling away workers' rights or pursuing a race to the bottom.
But what is the point of the review then? Just frame it for us.
So the review is no longer happening within BEIS. I've made it very, very clear to officials in the department that we're not interested in watering down workers' rights. I can't have been more clear about this on a number of occasions. I've said repeatedly that Brexit gives us the opportunity to have higher standards.
We've seen announced today restrictions on the ability of British people to come back here from high-risk countries. They've got to be quarantined in hotels for 10 days. Business very, very worried that we will effectively be closing our borders because of the risk of new strains coming in from abroad. What are you saying to business about the risk that actually there'll be almost no travel in and out?
I think businesses, like the government, are very, very focused on getting to grips with the coronavirus. And the business leaders I've spoken to in my 3 weeks as Secretary of State for Business have all been extremely committed to the government's drive to control the virus, to stop its spread, to save lives. And they completely understand that, they want to protect the safety of the workforce, of the people, of their employees. So I think people are very understanding of the government's position in trying to keep people safe.
Now, just finally, we had this awful, sombre milestone yesterday of 100,000 deaths. The Prime Minister said that he and the government had done absolutely everything that he could to protect us. But there are lots of experts who say, we should have locked down earlier in March. We should have done more to protect care homes. We should have ramped up testing quicker. We should have locked down this September when the scientists were asking. We shouldn't have allowed people to mix at Christmas. Surely, Secretary of State, the government could have done better.
I think that it's an easy thing in these very sad moments, tragic circumstances, to look back and say, with the benefit of hindsight, that this could have been done or that could have been done differently. All I would say is that it is a tragic situation, but we do have glimmers of hope. I think the vaccine rollout has been successful. I hope to increase that, and in my role, I'll be driving that forward. I want to be in a situation where we've contained the virus, defeated it soon, and then we can reopen the economy and make sure that our businesses can benefit from us coming out of lockdown in a safe and secure way.
Secretary of State, very good to see you.
Thank you.